you made it. If you made it this far, tell me you made it down below. Let's just be real. You're a minority. You know what I'm talking about. You can't do all that stuff that Kim was doing and get no backlash. And the police department is corrupted. So she got someone out of town from Alabama. He's a former FBI agent, investigator. So let's not waste no more time.
He was once hired to investigate former Missouri Governor Eric Greitens, but now he's the one facing a lengthy criminal indictment.
Of course, the former FBI agent was called upon to assist with the criminal investigation of then Missouri Governor Eric Greitens. Where this all gets interesting, though, is that some months after Greitens stepped down, a grand jury indicted Tisby with 7 felony counts, including multiple perjury charges. He's pleaded not guilty to, of course, all of those charges. But during that fiasco, a judge issued a gag order on Gardner, thus her having not to be able to speak about this investigation to defend herself.
Greitens' attorneys allege that Tisby had lied under oath during a recorded deposition, which prompted St. Louis police to launch a perjury investigation and the court to later appoint a special prosecutor.
Monday, a 33-page grand jury indictment was unsealed, charging 66-year-old William Tisby with 6 counts of perjury and 1 count of tampering with evidence, charges that stem from a March 2018 deposition leading up to the now failed prosecution of former Governor Eric Greitens. Tisby is accused in part of lying under oath and hiding documents from the Greitens defense team. Tisby's attorney says his client is innocent.
There was some information that may have been understood throughout the deposition, but he maintains he never lied throughout that deposition.
Supporters are also lodging new complaints of racial bias against police and the special prosecutor appointed to handle Tisby's case and the ongoing investigation of Gardner's office. The city's chapter of the NAACP says authorities are dragging their feet on investigating threats against Gardner from Greitens' defense team, further eroding their trust, he says, in the system.
We have no faith any longer in the police department. We don't have any faith in the justice system. We don't have any faith in the courts.
Now, Gardner certainly is implicated in this indictment, but she isn't charged with anything right now. Her supporters, meantime, point out just how quickly the courts were to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate her, but not one to investigate the threats against her.
The attorney representing Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner is asking a judge to hold a hearing to determine if there's a conflict of interest in the case. Gardner says that attorneys representing former Governor Eric Greitens threatened to, quote, ruin her last year if she didn't back off investigating Greitens. A St. Louis Circuit Court judge appointed retired Boone County Judge Michael Bradley to investigate. But Gardner's attorney says Bradley has conflicts because he spent 15 years working for one of the partners of the former governor's legal defense team.
I recognize that St. Louis is a small, big city, that many people in the legal community know each other. I think they should at least be explored. I think the judge should make an informed determination as to whether or not these are conflicts that rise to the level of disqualification.
St. Louis Judge Rex Burleson is now considering the request. No word on when a decision will be made.
This unfolded when St. Louis police and a special prosecutor came to the circuit attorney's office, and they took that server, which shut down Kim Gardner's office entirely.
And I want to get your entire email server. Go through all your emails for witnesses, perhaps people who making complaints against certain officers. We want to see all that stuff because we're looking for any notes between your investigator and you.
Not to mention, this server contains highly sensitive information about ongoing crimes and investigations. Now, this search warrant is tied to ex-Missouri Governor Eric Greitens. St. Louis police right now, they are investigating whether one of Kim Gardner's investigators on that case lied under oath. There's also a grand jury and a special prosecutor that's been assigned to look into that as well. And as part of this ongoing perjury investigation, police requested a lot of electronic information from Gardner's office. They wanted information, she says, that is highly confidential and, she says, unrelated to Greitens or her former investigator. She challenged yesterday's search warrant in court and she lost, and that is when police came in for their raid just moments before, she says, the appellate court actually ruled in her favor and said the search warrant could not be executed.
When you look at tactics that are used by the police department, that this is their search warrant to intimidate, harass, and embarrass this office, then when you affect our daily business, that's a problem.
St. Louis police only had her email server for about an hour. Gardner says they returned it around the time that the appeals court decision came down about the search warrant. She does not think that police had enough time to actually take any information off the server. The lower court now has until March 22nd to revisit the issue. Gardner maintains, meantime, she is not a target of the grand jury investigation and is not going in for an interview.
St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner says enough is enough. She speaks with Fox 2 defending herself from what she calls attacks from the St. Louis City Police and their union.
I sat down with Kim Gardner a short time ago. She says she wants to set the record straight about an investigation going on that has nothing to do with her.
There is a grand jury investigation underway into alleged perjury by former Special Investigator William Tisby in former Governor Eric Greitens' legal case. Gardner says St. Louis police and the special prosecutor in the case, Gerard Carmody, are attempting to tie her into the investigation.
We, the circuit attorney, are not under investigation. That's the first thing. So that a lot of the misinformation out there that somehow this office is under investigation, that's simply not true.
Gardner and the St. Louis Police Department have not had the best relationship. The latest feud is over a search warrant issued by Judge Michael Mullen yesterday regarding the Tisby case. Gardner appealed, but before a state appeals court could rule, St. Louis Police and a lawyer for the special prosecutor removed her email server. The appeals court later issued a preliminary order stopping the warrant. The server was returned to Gardner an hour later. Gardner says police and the special prosecutor are not playing by the rules and that the judge broke his own gag order in the case yesterday. Gardner is not a party in that case and she can talk.
It's about intimidation, and it's characterized as a night writing which people understand what that means. This is an actual night writing in terms of affecting this office.
Gardner vows to not let what she says are special relationships between police, the special prosecutor, and judge to create a hostile situation in the city of St. Louis. She also says a stack of police union newspapers were dropped off at her office attacking her. It says the real exclusion list, #1, Kim Gardner, referring to her police exclusion list.
The police chief may not talk about this and denounce this. I've never heard anyone in the community denounce this. I've never heard the mayor denounce this. I've never heard anybody denounce this, but I'm gonna be strong enough to say you're not gonna intimidate me.
As for moving forward, Gardner says everything should be about working together for justice and not forcing communities to pick sides.
2 of the 11 aldermen on the...
Most of the blacks was on one side, then the whites was on the other side. And out of all the people, only 2 people had a problem with her, and it was 2 people of what? Gotta go with the facts that's present before me. Okay?
2 of the 11 aldermen on the budget committee took aim at Gardner. One of them was Joe Vaccaro. Kim Gardner was forced to get lawyers to defend herself against a special prosecutor and a grand jury.
What's the cost of those attorneys, and why aren't we using local attorneys? We're going out of town. We're spending a bunch of money there.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think I should defend myself?
Well, I don't know if you should defend yourself. I'm just saying it seems like a waste of money to be going when we got a city councilor's office with capable attorneys here.
City's attorney Julian Bush has refused to represent her and her office.
Have you ever heard of a conflict of interest? When the city councilor picks a side, I cannot use that attorney because that's a conflict of interest. But,
what's the cost
I
of these
can't speak to the cost because, as you know, I'm under a court case right now that's addressing that issue.
Tom Oldenburg spent the longest time grilling Gardner about those lawyers.
It is unprecedented that we've had a special prosecutor investigating the circuit attorney's office and the ability for 5 outside firms to be hired to defend it. I would say that's an anomaly. I just would like you to speak a little bit to why the rise in those costs.
I would think that you understand that with the increased scrutiny of our office and the issues that we're dealing with, that we have to have contractual services, that you understand that with the increased scrutiny of our office and the issues that we're dealing with, that we have to have contractual services.
I don't see why you spending all this money. Why you keep spending all this money? Why can't you stop spending money? The way Kim said it was better than me, because this is what Kim said right here.
I would think that you understand that with the increased scrutiny of our office and the issues that we're dealing with, that we have to have contractual services.
Now, if that was me, I would have said this, well, why don't y'all stop me? And then you wouldn't have to worry about spending all this money because y'all ain't me. But she's a highly educated woman. She classy with it. She classy with it.
Email questions to Gardner about the cost for the lawyers. I got back this answer. Here's what her office says. These questions would be better directed to the court, city council's office, or police department. They initiated this litigation when there were other less expensive options available. The circuit attorney has appropriately hired representation to respond to outside litigation. Due to legal conflicts of attorneys locally who have relationships with opposing counsel or Greitens counsel, we were forced to go outside of St. Louis. Now, as for her overall budget, Gardner says she's increased expenses because of officer-involved shootings, the Greitens case, and other issues. But she points out that last year she returned $200,000.
Retired police officer Charles Lane of St. Louis is suing the city and suing Gardner. He believes Gardner hired these 5 law firms illegally and therefore his tax dollars should not be allowed to pay for them. Right now, there is a special prosecutor investigating one of Gardner's former employees for perjury. She maintains she needs these outside council members for that matter because she says the city's attorney, Julian Bush, has refused to represent her and her office. To date, city budget records show that Gardner could end up spending more than $300,000 on these 5 law firms. The city's also set aside another $250,000 for that special prosecutor's work. The attorney's office insists that they are not refusing to turn over information. In a statement provided to me, they say that they get, quote, thousands of requests for records like this one each year, either in the form of a subpoena or sunshine request. The subpoena in this case should have been directed to the circuit attorney's custodian of records, who would have actually had the information that is being sought. These types of requests have historically not required the testimony of the circuit attorney. We have confidence this matter will be appropriately addressed by the court.
Now all of a sudden the crackdown is taking place in the office.
They marched me out with 2 armed investigators. And it was the most embarrassing thing I ever had to do in my life.
Nancy Woods was fired from her job in January after 28 and a half years. She was the first paralegal ever hired by the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office.
I loved my job. It was fascinating. I love the people I work with.
Woods spoke with us at the office of her attorney, Lynette Petruska, shortly after the suit was filed. She says as soon as Kim Gardner took office, the tenor of the office changed. At an early staff meeting, she says Gardner's first assistant, Robert Steele, made a startling comment.
Told us that you people may think we're stupid because we're poor and black, but we're not.
What do you mean by you people?
Apparently he meant the white people that worked in the office. That's the only thing that we could figure.
The lawsuit makes the claim after Gardner was elected circuit attorney, at least 5 Caucasian prosecutors and 2 Caucasian members of the support staff were terminated by the circuit attorney's office, excluding Woods. Says there was a pattern of discrimination against white employees, and it appeared Gardner was trying to run them off. The suit says over 20 experienced Caucasian prosecutors left the circuit attorney's office after Gardner took office. Woods claims that she always had excellent employee reviews in her nearly 3 decades at her job.
I think they just wanted to get rid of me because they had somebody younger and African American that they wanted to place in that job.
It is unfortunate, but it's about a few powerful people in our city that they are saying, the voters of the city, that they know what's best for you, better than you know for yourself. It is time to take a stand against those who have made their ruthless intentions known. No matter how much these few powerful people dislike my policies or my personality, no matter how much they disdain they have for me, I refuse to kneel down and kiss the ring of the good old boy system.